I don't have any energy. Okay, we are back for the fifth time because we just did our fourth podcast with Robi McDonald, but it was a little bit of a malfunction, so that's okay.
It lasted 150 seconds.
Yeah, that's it. So we're just short and sweet, straight to the point. That one you'll never actually hear though, so or maybe we'll release it one day. But I'm going to stop talking shit about that for now. So we are. This is volume 32 of the Ultimate Strength Conversations podcast. So actually, that's what I didn't say in the first one. So maybe that's why I didn't even say the show. But if someone is listening to it, I assume that they know what it's probably called. But we're back with Robbie. What's going on, mate? You were just chatting about your racing again.
Yeah, round two. So yeah, after about 2 years of no real racing or events or anything like that, due to some unfortunate injury and like health stuff, which we've talked about in the past. Got back into it about 6 weeks ago with the Husky Triathlon, the classic distance, and had a really, really good show of it. Really enjoyed it. Had a really good time and was really glad to be back. Just enjoy it. Like, I know that people see a few distance events like that as a little bit daunting and like it's going to be a bad time, but I had a really, really good time. I was enjoying the whole thing. Maybe the last 5Ks of the run when both my quads started to cramp. But apart from that, I enjoyed it. And then obviously a couple of weeks ago we had a red hot crack at the Fit Series down at Fit Plus Well in Arncliffe, and that was a really good time. Just got a good crew. It was 12, 15 of us.
12 at the end, 12 all up.
Yeah.
Next time we're
14.
With a whole squad, like
even more. We're gonna take over. We're here to take over. Not too many Conor McGregor references. He's not in the positive news space at the minute. Had a real.
He's gonna be trying to go for president.
It's hilarious. He's like, he met Donald Trump and he was like, well, this guy did it, why can't I?
Right. Can you imagine Andrew Tate wants to go for Prime Minister of England, Conor McGregor, the Prime Minister or the President of Ireland, and Donald Trump, the President of the United States? We won't get too political, but I can't imagine we're going to political. But it's like if you were just to be on the outside observing this and just be like, how has this happened? But
it's like watching a car crash. It's like watching a car crash.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're racing again. Fit Series.
Yeah.
That's good.
Got the Sydney Half Marathon coming up in about 4 weeks from Sunday. So really excited for that. I'm actually supposed to be running my first half marathon for. It's been I think 2022 was the last time I ran one. So first half marathon in almost 3 years tomorrow as a training one. So that should be a good time. And apart from that, mate, it's just business as usual. Trying our best to lift heavy, look good, and fucking feel good doing it. So that's the life of Robbie.
Excellent. The life. Maybe that'll be it.
The Life of Brian is a Monty Python movie. Yeah.
That might be you, mate, one day. The Life of Robbie.
The Life of Robbie.
And tribulations of Robbie McDonald.
If Monty Python made a movie about me, it'd be a bit difficult because they're almost all, like, they're going to start dying soon, but I think, tell me you've made it without telling me you've made it. Monty Python are making fun of you.
That's what we're about. Okay, so today we're going to get into top 5 mistakes people make when it comes to training, nutrition, getting better results, and all that fun stuff. Because I guess that's what our job is, and not a guess, that is our job, to help people not make these top 5 mistakes. So if you're out there listening and you do make these top 5 mistakes, then we would probably encourage you not to, and we might even provide some solutions in that time.
Yeah, but an opportunity to change that fact. Sounds great. It's also, obviously we're going to get into it in a second, but we were discussing these before, and none of them were specifically specific. Nothing was like, you're doing this exercise wrong or you're eating this food wrong. And so I think that's kind of indicative of, we'll have this discussion about like actually being a coach. Indicative of a coach is we don't talk about specific things you're doing wrong. We talk about general things, and then we specialize, make it specific to the person. Whereas someone who maybe doesn't have that kind of coaching experience will generally talking about a few more specific things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of most people know what the things that they kind of need to do in terms of move a little bit more, lift weights, control diet, and all those sorts of things. But I think like the mindset and the approach around a lot of the stuff is of where people run into issues, and that probably stops them from actioning on the specific things or the actionables. That it's like 5 or 6 things that if someone were to do repetitively enough for a long enough time, they would end up getting the results that they want. So I think it's
exactly.
It's the more of the like mindset around those things. Not to say that we're mindset coaches or whatever it might be, but just hopefully whatever we chat about in this podcast can help you change the way that you see things, or at least maybe even be like the catalyst to you looking to see things differently or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So do you wanna, you're the guest, mate. You wanna kick us off with what's one of your top things you see top mistakes people make?
Yeah, it's a bit of it's one I've been seeing a lot on social media recently, and I guess it's more I've been seeing it from the perspective of people use it as like a marketing strategy, and it's a kind of like, because something worked for person A doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for person B or person C, D, E, F. Like, and the thing is, it will work for some people, which is why some people get results doing it, but it's not going to work for everyone. And you do see it a lot with like people who've gone on their own fitness journeys, which is awesome. It's amazing. Like, you've done really well, and then you go, hey, I also want to help other people going on their fitness journeys. And so they just go, well, this is exactly what I did. Therefore, if I just tell this person to do the same, they'll get the same result. And then conversely, if you're someone that's looking to make a change and go on a fitness journey, and you're consuming the content, you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you're looking at this person as a lifter or that person as a lifter, and you run this assumption that that because this person's in good nick, that what they're telling me they do works, and then B, that it's going to work for me. And it's kind of like a little bit of a mix of, it's got a bit of survivorship bias in it, because like for those people that don't know what survivorship bias is, it kind of comes from in World War II, when people would go, or pilots would take planes out, like will go to do missions in the planes. When they'd come back, the engineers would look at, obviously not all the planes came back, some would get shot down, that kind of thing. So when the ones that did come back, the engineers would look at them and be like, well, it's got bullet holes here, there, therefore we should reinforce the areas that it's been shot. But it's kind of like, it's actually wrong to do that, because if they're surviving and they got shot there, you probably don't need to reinforce that area, because they managed to survive with that area being shot. So you should focus on a different area. So in this case, like, if someone has, it's a classic thing, like someone was blessed with some really, really amazing genetics, and some people just are. You look at any professional athlete, that person was probably blessed with some amazing genetics, and not taking away from the fact that they would have worked incredibly hard to get there, because you don't become a professional athlete without working incredibly hard. And nowadays we're probably seeing more and more people with these incredible genetics that aren't professional athletes, and they still work hard. They're in the gym, they're lifting weights, they're running, they're doing their stretching, their mobility, they eat really, really well, they look after themselves really, really well, and it's amazing. But because they may or may not have a genetic advantage, what they have to do in order to get their result is probably not going to be the same as what you have to do to get the same result, or what I have to do to get the same result. And you'll see it a lot in the, like, especially in the like whole foods, like, don't track your food, don't track your nutrition, just eat whole foods, eat single ingredient, or just eat carnivore, like, stop eating the processed shit. Like yes, if someone was like, how can I eat healthier without having to track my food? I'd be like, just start eating more whole foods, like, make it more of your diet. But just by going from but just by eating whole foods, you're not automatically going to become this fucking rigged up, like super calisthenicsy or like super mobile, like super fit, can run really far, like kind of guy. Because, I mean, hey, you didn't see what this person did for the 15 years before they ate whole foods. Because, you know, if they were obese and then they made one change and that was like, I'm just going to eat steak and eggs for every meal, and then they got absolutely ridiculously shredded and they genuinely feel amazing, which is hard to pick up on Instagram because people tell you they feel one way when they actually don't. But yeah, like they'll come on. If someone did make that change, then it's like, okay, well maybe it does work. But if someone's been like, they're training like a bodybuilder for 10, 15 years, they got really good genetics, maybe doing something else to add into that. And then you look at them and they're like, well, actually, I got this way because I started having, you know, a raw egg after every gym session. Well, like, it's probably not the thing that got them there, but they'll sell you on it. And so if you're consuming content and you're someone that's like, I want to make a change, I want to get fitter, I want to get stronger, I want to look better, I want to feel better, I want to be more confident, all these kind of things. It's like just eating whole foods or just doing this workout or this split, and that's what you see it a lot. Oh, this is get jacked with this split. A training split means almost nothing, and you and I both know that.
Yeah, I did. I wrote an email on it the other day with calling bullshit on someone's method. Like, someone's method is not the reason that they got in shape. A lot of times like you said, they've trained for 10, 15 years or whatever it might be. And it's not to say that their method doesn't work, but people will try and sell you on their method and be like, this is the method, or this whole food based thing, or carnivore, insert whatever you like, is the reason why I got these results. And it's like, more times than not, most people just fuck around for a long period of time and then they and still, like, you know, train. And I think this is why I always come back to like the principles of what makes a difference, because that you can fit that to any given person. And it's like it's a framework. It's like we do it with, you know, we have criteria for what like a good squat will look like. But your squat's going to look very different to my squat, and my deadlift's going to look very different to your deadlift, whatever it might be. But if we adhere to these guidelines or the framework or the criteria, we'll end up in a good spot. Not saying you should squat like me because I squat like me. And it's like, well, that's not going to happen because my leverages are different to your leverages. And I think that's where, you know, if I say that, it's not helpful in any way, because then it misleads the person. And much like saying that if you do carnivore or whatever it might be, you know, it's not to say that there's bad things in what they're saying, but it's just like the context which you put it into is quite important, because otherwise it misleads people, and then people go, oh, I did this and it didn't work. Why didn't it do? You know, nothing works for me. It's like,
I must be broken.
Yeah, no, it's not that. But one thing you need to do is, if you are going to do the whole foods carnivore thing, you must eat off a chopping board. That's where most people make their mistake. You're not eating off a chopping board, doesn't work.
Doesn't count. I don't know if you know this, but if you haven't like neatly arranged your food on a chopping board, and so like if you have a not neatly arranged food and you eat it off like a ceramic plate, your testosterone actually drops considerably, and you won't get the results that you want. If you eat with the shirt on while doing that, worse. Worst thing possible. No shirt. You got to have a little bit of sweat happening. Like, you need to look like you just, you know, either you just got out of the shower or you just trained or something. One thing I actually noticed. Go on, sorry.
A little bit of blue steel in the eyes, like
smoky eyes.
Yeah, just looking off into the distance.
I did actually notice.
The beach is even better as well too.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed the other day, I was like, I just was seeing a bunch of this content on, like, you know, this is my steak and eggs, which, by the way, like, steak and eggs, like, tastes lovely. Yeah. Probably shouldn't eat it every day. I think most of the people that tell you how amazing they feel after eating steak and eggs every day are actually lying. But
also, it's going to get way more expensive because Trump just ruined that with the
fucking hell. Eggs are expensive enough as it is. Like, to eat 12 eggs in a week, you're having to take out a mortgage. Like, it's basically an extra rent.
That's why the price is going up on PT.
Yeah, exactly that reason. But so many of them are really bad at cooking eggs. they're all like, their yolks are all mashed, and they're like, it just looks like they've done like half an omelette. Like they've started chopping up and it's kind of rank.
Yeah, I won't ever cook eggs. I like eggs, but I'll never cook eggs because it's just
really.
I don't have time for cooking eggs. I don't. And
it doesn't take that long.
Yeah, but I don't have that time for it, and it won't look good as well too. Not whatever. For that reason that you're saying is the reason why I don't do it.
Yeah, it looks a bit. I'm like, you guys eat so many eggs. You'd think you'd be bloody like good at cooking them, and you see them like put them on the barbecue, and it's like you can see they've spread out so much. It's like some areas are getting cooked faster than others. It's like burning, and I'm like, guys, you should have some skill at this.
Maybe there's a hole in the content game, mate, that you can go.
How to cook eggs.
How to cook eggs. Just do that every single day.
Yeah, how to cook eggs. I do like. I mean, I like. Here's the thing as well, because obviously I mentioned like the whole foods diet there. Like, I think that it's weird because it's like I would recommend eating more whole foods to people, like to have a bit more of an understanding of the ingredients and to pay attention to what they're putting in their bodies. A bit less processed if possible. Less takeaway, like cook most of your own meals if you can, cook them fresh if you can. Doesn't always, like, that's not always going to help. You're not going to go to work with like and set up a fry pan and do a chicken and rice and broccolini fresh off there, but as fresh as you can, as cooked by you as you can, like all those things are going to benefit you a lot. But it's not going to take you from I'm on the couch, I'm depressed, I'm overweight, I'm weak, I'm unfit, I've got bad skin, it hurts to move. Oh, I started cooking my own steak for all of my meals. You're not going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight. No. Like, there's so much that goes into it, and again, it comes back to like just because someone said that they did it and they look in incredible shape doesn't mean that that's how they got into incredible shape. And second of all, just because it works for someone doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And it's the cookie cutter program. People be like, why don't you just sell programs? I don't just sell programs because people don't do those programs and they don't get results for them. And then they go, well, it's the program's fault. It's like, well, yes, no, you're right. The program wasn't written for you. But also, like, that's because you wanted a cheap option. You didn't want to pay to have a genuine coach. And you're like, oh, maybe if I just follow this program. But there's no program in the world that can get you the results you want.
No. And it's got to be relatively tailored to the person. So, like, we, as coaches, we do, to make the process more efficiently, we do have a template or a framework that we base our programming from. But it doesn't mean
a framework's a really good way.
I think frameworks are one of the biggest things for people getting out of their own way, and just in many facets of your life. Like, if humans don't have guardrails, it's chaos. That's why we have rules, and that's why we have even lines on the road and things like that. You go to countries where they don't, and this is the concept goes like down to like every single thing. If we don't have a framework, like even if we didn't have somewhat of a framework for today, we just ramble shit.
Yeah,
frameworks.
Really
So
great conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's a really, really good thing for us coaches, because as you start to create your framework, you create your model, and what that does is it allows you to make more informed decisions, make decisions faster, help more people, all those sorts of things. But it's not going, here's the program that I do, so therefore you should do that program as well, the exact same exercises and whatever that might look like, because that's massively individual. It goes back to that example of, like, if I say you should squat like my squat because this is how I squat. It's not about that. And I think that's where this is the thing with like coaches being like, or with the whole AI thing, it's like, AI is going to take coaches' jobs or whatever it might be. It's like, we've never had an issue with information. In the last 30 or 40 years, or however long the internet has been around, there hasn't been a shortage of information at that current time for people to be able to exercise relatively decent, eat relatively decent. It's not about just having that information and saying, I bought XYZ influencers program, so therefore this is the thing that's going to get me the results. And this is how, you know, you and I see of like people do these programs and they're like, oh, I hurt my back doing this, and like, because you weren't coached on it. It's a funny thing, like it makes sense, but it's also a funny thing that in our industry people don't. Any other industry, like if you wanted to build a house or get your car serviced or you needed a plumber to come around to fix whatever, you know, you get the professional to do that because that person has the knowledge, know-how and experience to be able to do that. Whereas within the fitness industry, it's like, no, I know how to do it. Like, you know, it's obviously not everybody, but you then see that a lot with, I wrote this program or bought this program by someone and then therefore I know how to do it. It's a funny thing.
Yeah. 100%. I won't name any names, but being in the performance and kind of like running and triathlon space, I have come across quite a few people who have used certain apps, and these apps are pretty big, have a pretty extreme market share, and there's probably a little bit of butthurtness from me as well because I have lost clients to these apps in the past. But someone goes, I was preparing for a marathon and I was using this app and I got shin splints, I got IT band thing, I got runner's knee, I got plantar fasciitis, and it's all this kind of like these kind of general like running injuries that well, shin splints isn't general, but these like running injuries that like are kind of like not super specific and typically come from overuse. And it's like, well, because I was just using an app and the app actually doesn't coach you. No. It just, and you don't notice it because you're just doing your program and you're so engrossed in it, but everyone that's on the same program is doing the exact same thing at the same time. Everyone did their 5Ks in the same week. Everyone has a deload week. Everyone's doing their half marathon this weekend. I can guarantee you that. So yeah, it's you got to be coached. And Jordan Shallow says something really, really cool in the Prescript course, and he says programs are for computers, and he's like, coaching is for people. And I think the idea that you can just take something that worked for someone and just without changing anything apply it to yourself is not going to work. You can take something that worked for someone and make adaptations for you and make it work for you and change it to work for you. But it's not a cut and paste. It's not a cookie cutter. It's not a just take this and put it there. You've got to make it work for you.
Because with coaching, it takes into account the subjective and objective feedback as well too. Whereas like an app is not going to do much in the way of being able to take into account those things. So it's as coaches, we take on board that feedback. And let's say if you had someone that is, you know, doing the said program or whatever, and even if your program started out exactly the same as the apps, you would make iterations as you go based on how, you know, your client's week was and how how they responded from their training and what their stress is like, what their diet's like, and all those sort of things. So it is, like I guess like copying people just because they are in shape. And there's an element of it that is like, I guess, right in that, you know, the reason why people will look to some people and be like, oh yeah, cool, I will copy what this person is, because there's an element of social proof, but it's how does someone replicate that over and over and over again? And I guess that's the biggest difference with a coach is, yes, we do still make mistakes and stuff like that, and we don't always write the perfect program, but we do iterate as we go and we get better and better as we go. Whereas if you just get something that you just copied off someone and then you just do it, that's fine, but it's unlikely that that's going to be the thing that gets you results. So that copying people, listening to celebrities just because they're a celebrity, you know, just because someone's in shape does not mean that they have much, you know, people can be in shape for many different reasons. You could look at some tradies that work on a site all day that don't lift weights and can be in better shape than you and I. They'll be like, oh, you just got to lift, you know, you just got to work on a building site. Okay, but that's not
just farm strong.
Vast majority of people. So just because someone's in shape doesn't mean they have necessarily always the intelligence to be able to coach. That's a big thing. Doesn't mean that they don't have that or they can't possess that, but it's like there's a big difference between coaching and just being. I think that's the difference. Big thing. The next one we got onto, mate, was injury. So you were saying focusing on where the pain is, and I guess this leads from what we were just talking about with fitness program and you and ending up with these overuse injuries. So you said focusing on where the pain is and not what's causing the pain. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of us have like over our combined almost 20 years worth of training experience, have worked with a few people from a rehab perspective in the past. And one of the things that particularly I notice a lot when I'm working with someone who has some form of an issue that we're trying to improve is that a lot of the times both the stuff that you see on the internet and content and stuff, but also that occasionally you'll hear from them when they may have gone to a practitioner that, you know, may not have as much real world experience or going out into it, is the idea that like if someone's got a bad back, it's their back that's the issue. And you'll hear that as well. You'll be like, oh, I hurt my back's weak. And I think both of us through both our own training and coaching people and helping rehab a bunch of injuries, including back injuries, is that we know that human beings and our bodies are really, really good at compensating for things that we can't do. So like if you tell someone if you're trying to tell your body to move something from X to Y, it'll do it. Doesn't mean it'll always do it the most efficiently or the pain-free way, but it will do it, and it'll figure out a way based off of what it's capable of doing. And so usually, especially like the most common one is backs, but you'll see it we've talked about like people's knees tend to do it to people's shoulders, is that what the body will find a way to do something and get the stronger part to do it. So, and the back's the classic one. Don't have a super strong core, don't have a super functional core. Lower back does a lot of the heavy lifting, literally, and then they injure their back. And they haven't injured their back from having a weak back, because if you look at, like, they've got back muscles, like they've got pretty evident back muscles. You're not weak. It's like someone tell me that come into me once and they were like, oh, I have plantar fasciitis, and I went to a practitioner and they said that I have weak calves, and this person had like huge calves, like their calves were almost as big as their quads, and I was like, I don't think it's a calf problem because you've got huge calves. I was like, and you have no glutes, so I'm going to take a stab that it's potentially the glutes, and the calves are having to do the heavy lifting. That's why the injury is popping up there. So I think you could share this principle with, is probably one that's a bit more specific. You can share it with a few things, but if you're having a problem, if like something in one area is causing you a problem, and especially if it's not an acute injury, so it hasn't happened, you weren't running and then you slipped and you hurt your back when you slipped. If it's something that like, I was running and I started to feel my back, but I ignored it, and then I kept on running and it got worse, and now I can't get out of bed. It's probably something, we've probably got other areas that we need to look at that aren't just your back. Obviously, make sure the back's, healed and doing its job properly. But for most, like a lot of people, especially with back specifically, it's glutes and core, like that they're not using. They haven't found a way to use properly, and it's not necessarily their fault. When I was growing up, a lot of the stuff that I was told about how to like use my glutes and core was almost exclusively wrong. And if it wasn't wrong, often it was just like, you need to use your glutes more, or you need to use your core more. And then I'd go, how? Or like, what? Like, what do I need to do? And I can't answer. In fact, you were probably one of the first people that actually taught me how to use my core properly. And I was 2 years into a university degree on movement.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
So like, it's kind of indicative of like where it's kind of where the lacking of the knowledge has come from. But like, to zoom out a little bit, to not get into too much to the weeds, I think that like if something is causing you pain, like a specific area is causing you pain, and you like rather than looking just at that area, if you zoom out, take a bit more of a global approach and look at how your whole body functions, you're probably going to find the answer somewhere else. And especially if it's an injury that keeps coming back. My knee started hurting again. My knee started hurting again. Okay, well, it's probably not your knee that we need to work on. It's probably something else. So I think that's probably one of the bigger mistakes that I see. And the principle can probably be applied to anything. Like, it could be food. Like, I think I'm eating too much. Like, I'm eating too much protein. Okay, but is it the protein or is it the high fat and high carb diet that you've got? It's like I think it's I'm training too much. I'm tired all the time. So, okay, but you're also not getting any sleep. So, but you're also drinking booze every single night, which means you're not going to be sleeping well. Like, zooming out is usually where you'll find the answers for the specific problem, and you can take more of a global approach.
Yeah, and it's like there's always an effect for every cause, and there's always a cause for every effect. And I think that's the zoomed out approach of like taking a step back. You see it on every single level of, you touch on a diet with injury as well too, and sometimes a little bit harder to see. But I think one of the things that I try to focus on with my clients is like, subjective information is really, really important, but usually subjective information doesn't have as much of a cause and effect sort of thing. It does mentally, but like from a physical standpoint, we know that things, if you are stressed, that would be a mental thing. You can have obviously physical stress on the system and the body, but that will maybe affect how you can kind of move. So there is like, it's not one or the other, but like if you have a look at this person, like you said, maybe there's something in a way that they were running, or a certain position that their body is in when they run, or pattern, or whatever it might be. And initially it's fine, and they run and run and run, and it's okay, and then they can start to get a little bit of niggle, keep going, it'll be fine. And it gets to a point where they have a lot of pain in an area, so they just go, cool, I can't do that now, or stop, or whatever it might be. But it's like, okay, or I don't know why it happened, all these sorts of things. And it's just like a little bit of an investigative work, I think, of just, which anybody is capable of doing. Obviously, we look at it through the lens that we have from training a lot of people and our knowledge of anatomy and base level physiology and all these sorts of things. And we go, cool, these things have happened, it probably has led us to this point. That's what I try to do, and use questions and things like that. Because, people will come in, who did I have this week? Someone was just like, I had a client and they're like, we've been working through some back pain. Back pain's been really, really good. The back pain has been going down and down and down. And then we did a little bit heavier session last week on an RDL, and the back was fine the next day. And then Monday, it was getting a little bit iffy. And she's like, maybe we went too heavy last week. And I was like, you probably know about that like the next day or the day after, and this was on a Tuesday, and I asked her on a Monday how it felt. She's like, it was too heavy last week. And I was like, okay, what else happened in that time? She did maybe a couple of different things, played tennis, which she hadn't played tennis in a period of time. I was like, hey, cool, got something else in there. And then I was like, how was your weekend? And she's like, I went out and got blasted on the weekend and didn't sleep much, and then, danced all night and probably wore different shoes. And I was like, but you were going to say that the deadlift that we did last week that was pain-free, one day, pain-free the next, pain-free the next, pain-free the next, was the thing that caused the pain, just because initially you just go, that was what it is. And that's still using that, like, looking at what's happened so we can look at what we can do moving forward. But it's like, then people will just miss that thing of like, okay, less sleep, a lot of alcohol, probably wearing different footwear, dancing for an extended period of time, all these sorts of things. And it's like, now it was the deadlift that was pain-free at the time, like, know. And I think that, like, that the more you can kind of zoom out, it's not always, but it usually gives you more information. And we see it with, like, you see it in TV shows and stuff where there's investigative, it's a murder mystery or whatever, and how many different ways someone will be like, it's exactly this because I saw that it was this. I was watching a show the other night. And the guy was like, well, it's suicide because he's dead there and no one else is here. And then the detective was like, how do you know it's suicide? He's like, well, he's dead, so that's it. And it's like, okay, cool. Let's have a look a little bit wider. And that's like looking at the pain and being like, my back hurts, so therefore my back's weak, like the example that you said. It's like, maybe the back's actually quite strong. It's just giving you a signal that we need some help here. You know?
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. What else you got on the injuries, mate?
Running has definitely taken off over the last, basically since COVID. I think it was probably the kickstart of when it started to become more mainstream again. Because for a long time, running had this real negative connotation, because I think people realised that... I think, hey, you're the one that keen to take on the Fit Series running. I'm just about the ergs. Yeah. So like it got this real like negative connotation, because I think people realize that it's like if you run, or if you only run, if you're like, I want to take up some exercise, I want to lose weight, I want to get healthy, I want to get into better shape. If you only run, chances are it's probably not going to work out for you. And that's for a couple reasons. First of all, is you burn a lot of energy when you run, and so afterwards you either get really, really tired, which makes the chance of you running again less, or you eat lots and lots of food, which makes the chance of you losing weight less. And then the other thing is that like running, like human beings were not necessarily designed to run a lot, but definitely not on concrete. And so it can have a bit of a negative impact on your body if you're not doing the right strength training, and you're not moving well, and you're not like making sure you're walking and doing your mobility and all that kind of stuff. But the other thing is like, when we all started taking up running again, and this time it was better because people are lifting weights at the same time. You know, I want to be able to deadlift 3 times my body weight and also run, a sub 3 hour marathon. That's a pretty, I think that's a better goal than just one or the other. In my opinion, my humble, but the other side of things is like, there's so many people that work a 9 to 5 or more office job, like an 8 till 6 office job. And they spend 8 to 10 hours a day sitting in a chair with their hips in a constant state of flexion, which for the people that don't know our movements, that means that your knees are closer to your chest, so a sitting position. And then they go out and they go for a run and they start feeling some pain, and then someone goes, and they might feel that pain in their hip flexor, and they go, it's my hip flexor. That's the issue there. And I was seeing a bunch of reels that's like, bulletproof your body for running using these exercises. And it's got these like hip flexor marches where you like hold on to, like, get a weight on your foot and then lift your knee up towards your chest. And I was like, but if you're sitting there with like this shortened, constantly active hip flexor for, hours at a time, and then you're going to get up and you're not going to get moving. Now, not necessarily like a warm up, but you're just going to put your shoes on and go for a run. And you want to do like, 10, 15 Ks or something. And you haven't A, gotten your body into a good position, or B, actually taught it how to look after itself. And you get injured and you're going to go, oh, it's my hip flexor. Is it your hip flexor? Is it really? So yeah, I was talking to someone today about it, about how like, again, global, like usually if someone's feeling pain, I look at what are the muscles that do the opposite movement. So it's a hip flexor, I'm looking at the glutes because they hip extension. If it's the lower back, I'm looking at the core. If it's the back of the neck, I'm probably going to look at more what's happening at the front. Because there's always something that's doing too much work, and usually that's what's causing the pain. But yeah, that's I know I said I wouldn't get super specific, and then I just specifically did, but maybe that's just me having a rant on bad running advice on the internet.
Fair. What's your good running advice, mate, out there? If someone was to go, cool, I sit down for the amount of time per day that you said sit down, if you could summarize it in a couple of minutes, and they're like, I want to do the Sydney 10K at the marathon, whatever it is. What do you got first?
I think first things first is you don't need to be getting a huge amount of steps, but I would be getting up and walking reasonably frequently. Like 5 minutes every hour is great, and you can double it up. You can go to the bathroom, you can go get a drink of water, you can get some sunlight, go get a coffee. Like there's a bunch of things that you can do. You don't have to be walking for an hour at a time. You don't have to go to a treadmill and pump up your steps, but getting up and moving is really, really good. I think breathing is a super, super important one. And I know that we both use this a lot. And sometimes it gets like, I think sometimes it gets overwrapped, and I think sometimes it gets a bad rap on social media, is like stretching and breathing and using your breath to relax the nervous system and loosen up some body parts. Like, it's not going to save your life, the kind of breathing side of things, but if you're always sat in that kind of like flexed hip position, then potentially like lie on your back, chuck something underneath like your lower back so your hips are further off the ground than your shoulders, and just breathe in that position for like 10 breaths, like big inhale, big exhale, just to try and open up that space at the front of the pelvis. And then, maybe even some 90-90 breathing to get your pelvis into a good position and get your rib cage into a good position. I'm a really big fan of front foot elevated split squats and kickstand RDLs, and you don't need to do these with weight to get a benefit from them. So you can even do these as like a little bit of a priming exercise for your runs. So just like having your 1 foot higher than the other and just pushing your hips towards it so you can try and open them up. A kickstand up, so putting 1 foot sort of like toes on the ground, heel against a wall, and then just focus on trying to hinge at the hips and rotate into it a little bit, and you get a decent stretch there. And then start walking a little bit before you run. But I think just moving around more, because we weren't designed to sit down for really long periods of time, and you'll probably be more productive if you do it, is like getting up, move around a little bit before you go out for a big long run. Because if you're like, I don't think a quick warm-up is going to be the difference. If you've been sat down for 9 hours and you get up and do some calf stretches, I don't think that's going to stop you from injuring yourself. But if you can get mobile and move a lot, but like the good work you're going to get done, and I'll say this to a couple of people, like I do my warm-up in the gym, like not before I go for a run, but the day before or the day after. Like my weight sessions are partly getting myself into really, really good positions for when I run. So I'll like, if you're in the gym and you're doing the right stuff and you're doing it consistently, you won't have to spend all this time with like a clamshell band or doing squats. Like when I see people do squats before a run, look, whatever's going to make your day better, but from a pure anatomical and physiological standpoint, doing 10 doing 10 bodyweight squats before a half marathon is, it's like, I don't know, putting on making armor out of cardboard and then going to fight in the trenches in World War One. It's not going to do a whole lot.
No.
It's you're going to get shot.
Yeah. I think the big thing with the walking around and just good training in general is it should be walking around to your point of we weren't made to sit down. Doesn't mean that we can't sit down at all, but it's just like the constant being in one position, being in one position, and basically joints and the system kind of getting a little bit compressed into one position or just kind of pushed down slightly because it's a bit stagnant. When you get up and walk, you can start to, when we do walk, just about every joint in the body should move, and that starts to create some mobility, not Olympic level gymnast flexibility, but mobility in terms of the joints can move, they have the ability to move. And that makes a big difference too. A lot of people's hip pain, back pain, knee pain, whatever it might be, because it's super gentle, and for the most part, most people can walk. And if you can do, when we did Connor Harris's course, one of the first things that he looks at if someone's got back pain, are they doing 7,500 steps a day or more? And if they are, okay, cool, we'll look at something else. But if they're not doing that and they are sitting down predominantly, that can be one of the biggest things that will help fix their back pain without any other intervention other than just moving. And I think it's that general movement. Yes, it's obviously very much the same as your running, they're very closely linked, but the intensity level is just so much higher, and the demands on the system on the ability to absorb force when you're running and produce force when you're running is substantially greater than when you're walking.
So much,
if you go from seated to run, you're more likely to, have something go wrong.
Yeah, 100%. It's like it's kind of the going from seated to running and not walking all day is like going from seated to a heavy deadlift session without touching your toes first. Just reach over and make sure that you're not feeling super stiff, because otherwise it's not going to go well for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that is a good little segue into the next mistake that you said of our top 5 for today, the all or nothing mentality. What do you got for me?
Oh, yes. Oh, this is a great one. This is one of the favorites out there. It's definitely been a lot of what we're talking about. It's just me bitching about what I see on Instagram. Social media definitely has promoted this a little bit
on Instagram, so people can bitch about it.
Yeah, good. I like the way that works. The irony is not lost on me. Like the idea that you have to go 100% all in on everything you do, and if you don't go 100% all in, then it's a waste of time and you should just give up. So like here's the honest truth. There is nothing wrong with going 100% all in on something if that's what you want to do. Like if you want to have a red hot crack in getting in good shape and looking after yourself, and you want to go full monk mode and remove yourself from society and like spend time reading and meditating and working on yourself, like if that's what you want to do, if you do it well and it has a positive impact on you and the world, then 100% that double thumbs up. But that doesn't mean that it's either that or like I'm just gonna party and do a bunch of drugs and eat like an idiot and live a super hedonistic lifestyle and blah blah blah. Like we can find like a bit of a middle ground, and I think that I do see a lot of people who will start, whether it's they're starting out a training plan for the first time, or whether they've been going for a while and they're looking to pivot, or they've had a period of where they've struggled and are trying to get out of that period of struggle, is they'll they set themselves up for failure because their plan is 100% to go all in it, like it's all in, that's my plan. And it's like, if you're like in any venture, whether it's a business venture or you're trying to, or it's a health thing, or like raising children, whatever it is, going on a plane, like if you only ever plan for the best case scenario, you're gonna get screwed. But if you have if you can deliver a minimum viable product, if you can take on issues as they come, like it's a big stoic thing, and Ryan Holiday like says it a lot, and it's like plan for the worst, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And it's not a like pessimistic or negative approach, but it's just an idea that things are going to go wrong. I have a client who's he's just about to move, and having moved 2 months ago, and that was just 500 meters up the road, and not even like going into like a new apartment. Like we in terms of moves, we did not have a stressful one. I said to him, I was like, look, it's going to get stressful over the next few weeks. So here's the minimum that we do each week. We get our protein in, and we eat 4 or 5 meals a day, and making sure we're getting one of those after training. We're lifting weights at least twice a week, and we're running at least twice a week. It's like, if you just do that, that's a minimum viable product, a minimum effort that you can put in and make sure we're still moving towards a result. Whereas if he goes into that, and he'll go into that moving situation, and he'll have times where he has to make a choice between training or not. But if he knows that as long as he gets that minimum thing in, he's okay, that's going to help him get through it. Conversely, if he went into that situation thinking, I'm gonna move, but I'm still gonna nail it. I'm gonna do my 3 weight sessions. I'm gonna do my 3 runs. I'm gonna track every single meal that I have, and they're all gonna be like really high protein, and I'm gonna make all of them, and blah blah blah. Guess what? That's not gonna happen. And as soon as the wheels start to come off, they're gonna go entirely off. We're gonna blow everything out of the park, or out of the water. We're gonna throw all the toys out the pram, and we're gonna be back even further than square one before you even realize that something's gone wrong. So, I think that when you go into something, like if you go, I'm going to train 5 days every single day, I'm going to run every day, I'm going to eat really, really healthy. If you go into it thinking everything's going to go 100% right, you're setting yourself up for failure, because things are gonna go wrong, and it's not how often things go wrong or how the depth of things going wrong that's the issue. It's how we can, recover, and how we can get through those extra stressful and extra heavy times that is going to indicate whether or not we succeed. I said this to someone the other day. It's like, it's not the person who gets it right every time. It's the person who can recover quickest when they get it wrong.
And I think in that context that you're saying as well too, it's like, sounds like the client has already done a decent amount of work, so it's much easier to maintain as well too, when you've already done a decent amount of work, and then pick up momentum when time comes and you've got a clear schedule, or relatively clear schedule. It's not permission to be like, cool, just sack everything off. It's like, no, you want to keep things going, but there will be times where it's better to push and have a little bit closer to that all or nothing mentality when you've got something that you need to push. I think also just bringing it back to like how much something actually matters is a big deal as well too, in terms of like, if you're doing any event, and this is kind of like my approach to a lot of the stuff as well too, like I'll try my best when I do a thing that, like with the Fit series or whatever it might be, but we're just, at the end of the day, you're doing it for a little bit of fun as well too, to improve your life and for enjoyment. And I think if you go so far down that rabbit hole, again, like you said, if you really enjoy it, excellent. But if you go so far down that rabbit hole that it starts to detract from your enjoyment of the thing itself and the rest of your life, then what are you actually doing it for? It's not necessarily the approach that I would encourage someone to take. But I think one thing is as well too, if someone is starting out and you try to pick the all, know that it's probably unlikely that you're going to be able to keep that up long term. And knowing that the process is constantly iterative as well too, is that you're going to make slight little changes as you go. It's never like, cool, we set a plan, it's in stone, and we do that forever. And this comes back to our point of copying other people at the start. With us as coaches, like that's what we do, and anybody else can do that as well too. Just zoom out and look at, if you were someone, you're like, cool, I've got a really busy week coming up. Maybe this is not a week for massive progress. But if I keep things in motion, then the week after or the week after that, I can get massive progress. And that will ultimately get you way more progress in the long term because you keep going. Like, it's the same thing with injuries as well too, like another little step back to that. Keep things in motion and even if you are injured, what can you do to work around it? If you have good training, we do our best to mitigate injuries, because I think even if your intensity was a little bit lower to begin with, and this is what I do with my clients, a little bit lower to start so that we can ramp up and push and push and push. Because if we got injured in that first week, that doesn't help you with your results. And then being able to move through that. Then if you are injured, what can I do to keep things in motion? I had a client earlier and he's got a bit of a broken ankle, and it's come, or not a bit of, it had a broken ankle.
He's broken.
Well, it's a bit of a broken now because it's healing. But,
is he on the knee scooter? Was that him that I saw today on the knee scooter?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, but he can still do, he's just got cleared to do he can do some swimming, he can do some stationary bike, like at a lower intensity, and keep momentum. And then in a couple of weeks he wants to get back to some running, but he'll be able to do something like the elliptical, which is not running, obviously. Yeah. There's a good little happy medium in between, and I think that process of, if he was to go take that all or nothing mentality, he would be able to do nothing right now because for one thing,
it's not all.
Yeah, and I think it's always like, if you can do something to move in that direction that you need to go to make yourself feel good, I think that's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really, really good callback there, Matt. I'm really impressed by your ability to call back to 2 parts earlier in the pod.
I listen. It's part of my job.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the exact same thing with the injury and like illness as well. Like I always say to my people when they're like, they get injured or they get ill and they can't train or train to the intensity that they want to, and they get worried, they get concerned. Am I going to lose my progress? Is this the end of everything? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, look, here's the honest truth. And this has come from experience of my own injuries and my own illness, is that like the quicker you try to get back to what you were doing before, the longer it's going to take. Yeah. You got to let it happen. You got to give yourself time. The body is incredibly resilient, but you got to let it adapt. And if you don't let it adapt, things are going to go wrong. And I'm a really, really good example of that because I pushed too hard, too early, and wasn't in the space to push hard. And it took me almost 2.5 years to recover from it and get back to close to where I was before. So from my own personal experience, and I definitely had a bit of that all or nothing mentality, and I thought it made me, I was going all in, and I thought it made me this fucking hero, that I was better than everyone else and holier than thou, and you can't keep up with me, and it didn't go well.
No.
Didn't go well for me.
And there's something I was going to say there. I said to a client the other day, and it comes back to your point with the stoic principles, that basically rushing anything doesn't make it go faster, and it doesn't make it go better. Like you might get there in the short term, but you're not going to be able to repeat that. So therefore, rushing it is probably not going to be the best thing. Rush anything and tell me that comes out better than if you take your time and
yeah, definitely.
Like you can do things faster, but if you try and rush things, so like get sick, try and rush back, worse. Get injured, try and rush back, worse. Do like have a really, really stressful period at work and then miss a bit of training, try and rush back. It's going to be worse, it's going to be more stress. But if you're just patient, patience is a virtue, then you will probably get to the place you want substantially faster. Patience is not doing the things. It's just doing it to the best of your ability, and also just understanding that there's going to be times where you can't be all or nothing, and it's a long game. Like if you think about the people who get the best results, they usually do it maybe not the hardest every single time, but they do it the most consistent, and they can.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not to not train hard. Absolutely train as hard as possible, but know when to pull back, know when to push, and I guess it's pacing and being patient with that. And I guess this then moves into the next thing is
real good segue.
We're doing it. This is why we have frameworks, mate. This is what I said earlier on. Frameworks, they make a big difference. And this framework,
I like doing it live.
Yeah, this framework is naturally just led to it being a great journey for the listener out there. But the next thing we got down here is wanting to bypass the process and wriggle their way around the principles and the key concepts to get to the result basically before doing the work. And as we were just saying, you rush something, it doesn't do you any good. If you were to put it in an extreme context, you want to get jacked and in shape, okay, cool. As soon as day one going to the gym, you start steroids. You might get the results really, really quickly, but you're going to have a lot of side effects straight up with that. And you can apply that to anything. Get rich quick schemes, whatever it might be. You can get it fast, but then you most likely lose it and have a lot of side effects. But also, you don't learn anything in the process as well too. There's parts of the process of everything is failure, trying again, iterating. Being patient. Being consistent for a long period of time. And I think, and if you don't learn in that process along the way of what actually makes a difference, what actually works. That's what we do for our coaching business. Is our job is not to lie to a client. I say that quite frequently. It's when they ask and they're kind of a little bit skeptical about what they tell me, what I tell them, and I'm like, look, I'm not. I can't lie to you. I will give you the answer.
I don't benefit from it.
I don't benefit whatsoever. Making you be a little bit more patient so you get a better result is not me going, I don't want you to get this result. It's no, literally, you pay me money, so I can get you the result. I want you to get the best result possible. I probably want a better result than you want. So being that little bit patient. And I think that's coming back to the points of learning how to understand when it comes to just the basics of programming and the basics your running programs and stuff like that, and knowing that you can't just rush from the desk into a run and expect it to be the best. It doesn't mean that you have to warm up for 4 hours, but there's some things that you can learn in that process to help you get better results.
Yeah, 100%. A great man, a philosophical man, once said, "Everybody want to get strong, but ain't nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight." Ronnie Coleman. So it's just, you got to, if you want the treats, you got to do the mahi. You do the mahi, you get the treats. If you don't do the mahi, no treats. And it's I mean, a bit of an analogy, a bit of a story here that kind of fits into it. It's when I learnt this lesson quite early on. Did you ever play the game Need for Speed Underground?
Yes. And if anyone hasn't, you're wrong.
Yeah, so I was a real big fan of Need for Speed Underground 2. It may have been one of the best ever games that I ever played. Enjoyed it thoroughly.
You could customize the cars.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big thing. I tried to remake the Nissan, the Skyline GTR.
the Furious.
Yeah, the one from Fast and Furious. I tried to remake it. Did not go well.
Silver with the blue stripe.
Yeah, silver with the blue stripe. I also love the Mitsubishi Evo, the Lancer. Mate, those things around town. But my dad comes from an Australian car family. Like my dad, my uncle, my grandpa, they all worked at General Motors in South Australia. So Chevrolets are our thing. My dad has a Chevy Camaro. So a muscle car. I always love a muscle car.
I would
always wanted
like Escalade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Drive a bus. Yeah. But yes, whilst playing Need for Speed Underground 2, I'd come to a stop in a race, and is a core memory for me. And I'd crashed or something, and I was like falling behind, and so I hit the NOS when I'd only just started moving, and very little happened. And my brother goes, there's no point hitting the NOS if you're not at full speed, because it only makes you faster if you're at full speed. Yeah. And I was like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then just the point you were making before is like, if you're not in the position to go hard, if you haven't done the stuff to go hard, like you haven't built the foundations, you haven't taken your time, like, then you can't just hit the NOS. You can't just jab yourself full of juice. You can't just go to a super heavy calorie deficit. You can't just like train 6 times. You can't just be like, I've just started running, I'm going to run a marathon in 12 weeks. Like, none of that works, because if you're not in a position to hit the NOS, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to accelerate. In fact, you're probably going to get slower. And you're right, like coming back from injury, or if you're new to a concept or new to a sport, and like you see it a lot with people that they try to get when they try to get really, really lean for the first time, like genuinely like dick skin, like I can't get my dick won't get hard, like less than 8% body fat, where you can see the striations, all that kind of stuff. And they see, like bodybuilders do it, or people doing photo shoot prep, and they like, I can do that. And they're like, you just got to eat in a deficit. And then they'll eat like in a deficit, they'll take the carbs out of their food, and they'll get really, really skinny, but they won't have any muscle underneath, because they haven't spent 3, 4, 5 years building up a good deposit of muscle underneath to actually look good when they pull it off. And so you see people and they're like, I thought I'd get strong and shredded, but I just got skinny. And you're like, well, yeah, because you haven't done the work. You wanted to do this in 3 months. I said 2 years. You said 3 months. We went with you, and it didn't work. So why don't we just extend that time out, spend some time getting you actually strong and building some muscle tissue, and then pulling it off. So, it's just that I want the best. I want the result first is the classic thing. And, that's, even then, like someone who's willing to eat in a deficit for 12 weeks is better than someone that's like, I did one workout, why am I not juiced? But it's still like, I think again, modern world, we all want everything yesterday. We see someone with something, we get envious, we want it now. And with this kind of stuff, you've got to take your time on it. Like all those, one of my clients pointed out Jules, our lovely Jules. If you don't, for those of you that are listening that don't know who he is, we work with him. He's an absolute legend of a bloke, mid-40s, 2 kids, and built like a brick shit house, and is just a very good looking dude. He trains hard, but he's a good rig. And one of my clients pointed him out, and he's like, jokingly, he was like, yeah, like, I went to the gym once. Why do I not look like him? I'm like, that dude's been working out for like 30 years. Yeah. Like he's been doing the do for a long time. And I was like, you might come in here and you might train for 5 years and get some good results. And you turn to the dude sitting next to you who's looks absolutely like ridiculously incredible, and you're like, why don't I look like him? well, he's been training for 15 years. He's been training for 20 years. He's been training for 25, 30. Like, someone looks at you and, like, your squat and, like, your quads and your calves, like, the lower body that you have. Not that you don't have a good upper body, but you do have a very good lower body. And they go, why don't my legs look like Matt's legs? Like, and it's like, well, you haven't been training like Matt for 15 years. And so it's like, if we see people with the result and we see what they've gotten and we want the best exercise to grow my biceps, best exercise to grow my shoulders, the best food to eat, or the best foods to avoid eating. If I avoided these foods and I got really, really lean. No, you didn't. You didn't avoid those. You just ate other food and you got lean. You could eat those foods and get lean. It's not the food's problem. It's the person eating too much of them that's the issue.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's like bypassing like the principles. Like, if you just understand, like, have someone, all the information's out there. But if you learn, take the time, be a little bit more patient to understand that, then you'll get such. Initially, it might not seem like it's quick progress, but the progress will continue to get faster. And then you get like almost like an exponential gain for a period of time. I think one of the things that So like when I have a client start with me, I always say we start with a foundation phase and cover all the boxes, or at least introduce them to the idea of what is necessary to get great results. And it's not impossible for everybody to understand, but it's just understanding, macronutrients and energy balance and calories and all those sorts of things. Understanding what effective training is and standardizing range, looking at sleep and hydration, and then a good general movement, so your steps or something like that. And it's like, you can just rinse those things forever, basically, and you'll continually get better and better and better at those things, and those things will then, at a point, you will accelerate. And realistically, it only takes about 6 months and you'll get like accelerated gains, but people don't want to wait 6 months. They only want to wait a week or two. And I think, again, the way that I to use an analogy, the way that I explain it is, so I grew up on I didn't grow up on it. My dad's a builder, and I grew up around building sites a lot. I spent probably more time on a building site than the average child. Part of it,
more time than at school.
What's that? More time
than you did at school.
Part of it messing around, but then part of it being exploited for child labour. But a lot of that time. But like, if you look at any building any type of building that stands for a long period of time, the block of land will not look like much for a period of time. It'll be this digging around in the ground, making a bit of a slab. It doesn't look like that. Spend a substantial amount of time doing that. And you're like, why is it not up yet? And then all of a sudden, in a matter of a week or so, the frame goes up and you're like, oh wow, it looks like a house now.
Yeah.
But they have to go through that process to build a house that will last, because if they didn't start with the foundation, then the house will topple over. And you can have a really quick house with no foundation. That would probably be a tent, but it's not going to be long lasting, and you're not going to want to stay in it when times get tough, whatever it might be, all that sort of stuff. And so I say that with my clients, so like, you've got to understand this stuff first. And I'm maybe a little bit, it might come off as a little bit too anal with it and a little bit too strict with it, but it's like, I am, because it matters, and I 100% guarantee that it'll get you better results than you could ever imagine in a shorter period of time. It's just that period of time is slightly longer than you want it to be, because you wanted it 4 weeks ago, and we're at today, and you still don't have the result. But if you stay with it for the next couple of months, I guarantee that you'll be able to execute that for the rest of your life. But because it comes back to all the other things, copying what people did, if people get injuries because they don't focus on these things earlier, they're all or nothing mentality, and then they don't want to understand the process, and we want the results, and we want the results without the work, and that's where people don't get the results.
Yeah, exactly. So instead, learn about the process, do the simple things right for a long, long time, get really good at them. If you're starting a health journey now, it's probably not a good idea to be really, really hungry straight away, because you're not gonna enjoy it if you're really, really hungry straight away. Enjoy things, get good at them, get like, a bit of autonomy about them, a bit of like actual capability and understanding of how it works, and then from there, then you can kick on. Then you can change the dials. Then, I want to focus on strength, or I want to build muscle, or I want to get really, really lean, or I want to get really, really fit. Like, is a bit of a trend of people, and I fell into this. I am a prime example of a trend of people who have seen people doing Ironmans or half Ironmans and go, I'd like to challenge myself that way, and and they go, all right, cool, I'm going to do that, and they buy a really, really expensive bike, and they buy a program off the internet. Look at all these callbacks we're doing here, and they follow the program. They get the bike, they follow the program, and because they haven't done the foundational work, they have a really difficult time getting through it. And they get to the race, and they have a really difficult time going through the race. And like, oh my god, it's awesome! I completed this Ironman. Like, I never want to fucking do that again. I never. And I was saying to someone the other day, like, if you want to buy a road bike in Australia, just wait until 2 weeks after an Ironman has happened somewhere around the country, and go on Facebook Marketplace. I guarantee you'll see some really, really good bikes up there, because people just do that. They go, I've seen someone do this, and like, I'm a prime example. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really, really cool. I thought I was like this big dog. I was like, the first triathlon I ever did was a half Ironman. It was a little fucking long way. It took almost 6 hours. And the next thing I was like, next thing, standard, I'm going to do an Ironman next. Makes sense. It's the next thing up. I'll do that next.
It's only
and I got injured and I got sick, and it took me a long time to recover from it. And there's still things that I'm dealing with now. Because of it. So all I can say is like, it's not necessarily impressive to jump from 0 to 100 if you then fall all the way back down to 0 again. Like, if you can steadily build 0, 10, 20, 30 all the way up to 100, and you take 2-3 times the time, but you stay up there and you go even further, it is far more impressive than falling down straight away.
Absolutely. The big realization for a lot of people is that the human body is amazing. It can tolerate stuff for a period of time, but to get a really good adaptation, it takes a little bit longer than most people want it to be.
Unfortunately.
And
so yeah,
you just be a bit more patient with it. And it is a bit of a balance in that, it's not being patient maybe might not be working as hard as you might think initially. And so it's like, oh, am I not working harder? So it's not about not working hard. It's about being effective. That's what I always say to my clients is anybody out there can write a program that is really hard. But whether someone can get someone in really good shape, then there's obviously substantially amount less people that can do that. And that's why personal trainers have their jobs. And I guess that then leads us into the last final point, mate, is one of the mistakes that people make is wanting the best, but also expecting it to be the easiest. What's the best exercise for this? What's the best way to do this? What's the best way to get abs? You don't really want, if you want the best way, you're asking for the easiest way, and it's usually not the answer that you want, whatever that might be. What's the best way to do an Ironman straight up? Tell me that answer. Okay, maybe do a few years of slowly building up to a half Ironman, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Start running, start swimming, buy a bike, get to the point where you genuinely enjoy it so much that you want to go out and do it. Yeah. You don't feel like you want to go and train every single day. You want to give up a social life. You want to be getting up before the sun comes up and, training before you get to go to bed. You want to feel sore and tired a lot of the time. You got to want to feel that, and then we'll open the door. Then you can start going down that Ironman route. But yeah, it comes with kind of like anything. It's like, what's the there's a really great. Just give me a second there. I stopped being able to talk for a hot minute, but I was trying to remember a point that I had in my head, and it's so the actor Daniel Craig, the last James Bond.
Yeah.
Really, really good Nick, and he's probably one of the last of the male actors that got into really, really good shape, but got into a shape that you could get into and maintain without having to do anything extreme. And I really like to see jacked up actors around there, but we know that they're doing something a little bit extra here or there, or it's not something that they can maintain all the time and blah blah blah. But Daniel Craig was someone who was genuinely in really good shape all the time. He just seemed to really like working out, and it wasn't ridiculous. Really good Nick, wasn't ridiculous, but he was doing an interview with some radio hosts in Australia, and one of them was that he was a bit overweight, and that was the joke. Everyone would joke about how Whipper was overweight. And he goes to Daniel Craig what's the best way to get into the shape that you're in? And Daniel Craig says, gym every day and no carbs after 5. And that's not the best way. That's how he did it, and it worked for him. Whipper goes, but no, like for someone like me, and he goes, gym every day, no carbs after 5. And he goes, but what, like, I want to, like, a little bit easier, like, more manageable. And he goes, gym every day, no carbs after 5. And he's like, well, if you were just going to tell me, like, what should I do? And he goes, gym every day, no carbs after 5. And the point is that, like, is you've got to, like, there's no best, there's no easiest, there's no, like, shortcut. And there's, I think, is it Hormozy that says, like, it's like the best shortcut is taking the long way round because it's the only way to get there.
Yeah, that's it. It's just hard. It's just working through the stuff, and there's no. I guess that is the big mistake people want. Big mistake people make is wanting the secret of the thing, and when you get the secret, which doesn't exist, it's just the work that is in front of you. And the only way to continue to get closer to the goal is by working. Like, there's going to be anything else is probably going to be a detour. Or not get you along that journey faster.
Yeah.
If you want to achieve something decent, the only way you can do it is via working. And again, the things that you need to do, to do an Ironman are really simple. You just have to be able to run, swim, and ride the bike for the period of time. But having the capacity and being able to tolerate that and being able to replicate that over and over and over again is where it gets a little bit more complex. Wanting to lose some body fat and build some muscle, it's actually relatively simple in terms of if you do it long enough, if you consistent calorie intake, hit the gym a couple times a week and train effectively. That gets a little bit more technical, but still not the hardest thing. Decent step count, sleep, hydration. Be consistent with that for the next 5 years and you'll get in better shape than you can ever imagine. But most people want to do it in a month and it just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. And if you just keep doing it, you'll be fine. It doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be supremely life-altering. You can still be social. You can still go out to events. You can still enjoy your life. You can still have an ice cream once a week. Like, you don't have to cut everything out. It's all or nothing that we're talking about.
It's just, I think this is where, for me, the more I go down, the more I do it, it's just like it comes back to that foundational understanding of what is necessary. And it's not impossible, and having that understanding of the key elements makes it more flexible. Whereas if you try to skip that, you end up not having any of the skills that you need to be able to move yourself forward when you hit a bit of a roadblock. Obviously, again, there's a whole industry on it, the fitness industry, that is ideally, most people are out there to help and move people past this. But same thing with, it's obviously a little bit more complex with a triathlon training schedule in that you need a little bit more time in terms of throughout the week, but also there would be a point if you build a relatively decent base after a period of time that you would be able to back off volume somewhat, maybe have a couple of key sessions that are a little bit more intense that allow you to maybe not necessarily progress, but put you in a spot where you can progress when time comes to it. Yeah, and I guess that's been programming and periodization and organization across the training week and months and years and all those sorts of things. I think when people think that it's just going to be one plan, I write out that I just do X, Y, Z, and that's going to be perfect. It never is perfect. It's always iterative. And every single week there's going to be slight little changes. I think that sort of comes back to finding the easiest way. It's like the easiest way is to continually iterate each week and get better. Not the easiest way. The easiest way is not write out write out a plan and then just expect it to work forever. That doesn't work. It's never worked with anything. It just, what's the quote? Everybody's got from Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like that, being able to adapt and iterate and being flexible and dynamic with your approach can only come from experience, getting help, learning to understand the process and being engaged in the process. And it doesn't all need to be done at once. If you just slowly chip away at it,
make changes,
you're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, and on that, it's like when you like, if you maybe sitting there listening to this and you're like, but I don't want to do all that hard. I want why are you telling me that I just have to work really hard? Like, it's okay to not work really hard. You don't have to do that stuff, but you can't expect the results that working really hard brings if you're not willing to work really hard. And that's okay. You don't have to. When it comes down to it, if someone says you should run a marathon, and then you start marathon training and you realize just how difficult it is, and you go, maybe this isn't for me, that's fine. Most of the people that have ever lived, the vast majority of the people that have ever lived, have never and will never run a marathon. It's because it's actually very niche in the history of the world. It's a very, very small niche of people.
This guy did it, died, so I don't know why everyone wants to do it.
And we celebrate it by doing doubles. You don't have to do any of these things. Like, if you want the result, yes, there are some things some choices you're going to have to make, and some paths you're going to have to go down, and you're going to have to make some sacrifices as well. And that is just part and parcel with doing literally everything. When you have a goal and you set a goal or a result that you want to achieve, you're not choosing the goal, you're choosing what you have to give up in order to achieve it. Like, really good example for us is we both want to help people train better, live better, feel better, look better, perform better. We want to do it in a way that where we have control over it, and where we can use our energy the best way possible, and we can use our time and energy and resources to assist and impact on the most people in the world. This is both what we want to do in some way, shape or form. Because of that, we have to spend a lot of time building it and putting in some man hours and putting in some invested time and money and effort, and things are going to go wrong, and they're not all going to be right, and something will go right, and then we'll feel really good, and things will go wrong, and it's going to be ups and downs. And like we've both spoken about before, we could have chosen to get a job that is a salary-based job where we've got job security, and we get paid, the same amount of money, and we go to work and we do the thing, and then we go home and blah blah blah. We both could have done that, but
we wouldn't be sitting here and chat shit on the podcast though.
At 4:00 on a Friday afternoon. But we wouldn't be able to do the things that we want to do, and so yes, we have chosen to give up some financial security and chosen to forge our own path. But that was we've done that because that's what we want to do, and we've had to give up, some things that we would like to have. I'd love to have some job security. I'd love that. That would be awesome. But it's just part and parcel. I'd love to, go out and have beers with my mates every weekend and enjoy nightlife and a lot more of a social life. But I know that if I booze too heavily, my gut's gonna become awful again. My mental health's going to go, my physical health's going to go. I'm not going to be able to get up and run it. I'm not going to be able to do the things that I want to do, which is run a marathon, do an Ironman, do a Keltman or Seltman one day. This kind of stuff that, you want a six pack, you're going to have to give some shit up. And that is just how it's going to work. You want the easiest way? Yeah. Take some time, see a future. There's a goals there, it's attainable, but you're going to have to do some fucking work.
Yeah. We should... The really, really good example and a funny meme is if you want you refer to something as the Temu version of it. If you want the Temu version of getting in shape or getting to a marathon you're not going to get the result that you want that sort of that process is just not going to be
the result.
Funny thing to finish on that is completely unrelated to everything we spoke about, but also related to the Temu thing, is with the sessions that we did yesterday for the relationship managers at One Playground. One of the guys that I had, I was like, have you met Matt Duncan? He's like, oh, I thought you were Matt Duncan. And I was like, no, I'm
Temu Matt Duncan.
I'm Temu Matt Duncan. And I thought that was a good one.
I thought you were Temu Matt Wall.
Yeah, I'm Temu Matt. I'm the worst version of it all.
I'm Temu Rob Nee. People were like, are you we assigned you a lead for Rob, and I was like, no, I'm Robbie, and they're like, oh, this is for Rob, and I'm like, you're gonna want to do, it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah. Temu. Anyway.
Yeah.
So basically, don't make those top 5 mistakes, guys, and you'll be in a good spot. If you need any help, reach out to myself or reach out to Robbie or myself. Where can we find you at, Robbie?
Well,
at Timu Robbie.
At Timu Robbie, Timu Robney. No, I have I'm trying a little bit something with the Instagram. So I have 2 Instagrams. So if you want some more fitnessy, boring, fitnessy reels that's not super helpful, at Robbie.McDonald on Instagram. But if you want some more, you want more of me, at Coach Robbie SXP on Instagram. And Robbie is spelled Robi.
And you can also find him at the
One Playground, Surrey Hills.
Yeah, and the Extraordinary Project.
Oh, the Extraordinary. Yes, I also have a podcast. I should plug that. That'd be silly if I didn't. The Extraordinary Project on Spotify. The Extraordinary Project. I've had Matt on it already, and I've got another guest who's coming on tomorrow morning, and so that episode will be out next week. And then I got another guest coming on next week, and hopefully a few more in the future. So trying to talk to some extraordinary people and hear some extraordinary stories, and share them with you.
Cool. And also we have Fit Series 25.2 coming up, so if anybody wants to do some extraordinary stuff and get out of their comfort zone and do all the hard work things we just talked about, I would highly recommend that you do that, because we're going to be there. And not I'm excited for it.
If you can run 400 meters, it's a good spot, good place to start.
I'm just going to stay. Okay, we'll wrap that up there. Thank you very much for getting this far. If you did, if you've got any feedback for this sort of style of what we're doing, of like the lists and things like that. Last week we did 33 things. Today we only did 5 because we did 5. So there's no reason.
When we talk, we talk.
That's it. We will catch you on the next one.
See ya.